on 938 Live. This is Talkback.
So would you consider being a foster parent to a child who is in need of care and protection? We're asking this because there are hopes to move almost 800 kids currently in 23 children's homes to join an existing over 300 who have been placed with foster families. Now, the Ministry of Social and Family Development wants to move them into institutional homes, or rather from institutional homes into the care of foster families, because frankly, the institutional environment in children's homes is artificial at best, according to Minister Chan Chun Sing. He said if we believe that a homely environment is best for our kids, then it's incumbent upon us to do what we can to see how we can generate this more homely environment for low-risk children who are in need. Considering we live in a country where people are reluctant to have even their own kids, will this work? Is the target realistic? It's hoped that with the $8 million 3-year pilot program that has recently been announced, voluntary welfare organizations, or VWOs, will be appointed to set up fostering agencies. It's hoped that this will certainly help. Give us a call, 669-11938. Tell us whether with support services and a support network, you might be more receptive to take in a foster child. What skills do you think you would need to help a child who is placed in your care? We've talked about being a more caring, open society, a more inclusive society as well, more gracious society. This is one way of doing it. 669-11938 is our number. Audrie Siew is Deputy Director of the Children in Care branch of the Rehabilitation and Protection Group at the Ministry of Social and Family Development. Jasmine Pang is Principal Clinical Psychologist and Assistant Director, Dr. Jasmine Pang of Clinical and Forensic Psychology branch, Rehabilitation and Protection Group at the Ministry of Social and Family Development. And we're also joined by Lynette Chiu, who is a foster parent, and she'll be telling us her story as well. First of all, though, Audrie, let's talk to you. We asked earlier of the idea of moving 800 kids from institutionalized homes to foster homes, whether or not that's a realistic target. Why have you set this target, and what are the challenges in meeting it?
Well, good morning, Audrie and Bharati. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to be here. I'd just like to clarify, actually, there is no target to actually move 800 children to foster homes at all. We do want to, however, double the number of foster parents that we have today. We currently have around 250. We would like to have another 250 come on board. Well,
clearly there's a shortage.
Yeah, there is a shortage. Well, in the past, we used to prioritize foster care for younger children because of the developmental stages, and at that stage, family-like environment is more urgent and very urgent because they need individualized care and attention. So over time, we've seen that family-like environments can benefit older children as well. So we want to encourage more foster parents to come forward so that even primary school age children and even teenagers in the future can have access to this family-like environment.
Why do you think you're not getting enough parents to come forward? What do you think is holding them back?
Well, I mean, we have been on the ground and doing road shows and talking to a lot of people in the last year. And our sensing is that a lot of people still don't know about the existence of fostering.
Right.
Majority of people I've spoken to say, wow, there's such a scheme available. We didn't know that. I wish we knew about it earlier. So in that sense, you were talking about whether targets are reasonable. When we looked at 250 and getting another 250, I think given time, we should be able to find these foster parents, and we do want to encourage more to come forward. Because I've seen many, many warm-hearted Singaporeans all over, and Lynette is one of them.
Yes.
I'm so glad that she's one of our foster parents. And we see so many wonderful foster parents.
Let's talk to Lynette. Lynette, how many children have you fostered over the years? How many currently? Why did you do it?
Okay, over the years, I think we started around 2006. So we've had about 5 foster children. And currently I have a 2-year-old whom I've had since she was 7 weeks old.
Wow.
Okay, so what made you do this?
My husband and I have always wanted to foster. Before we had my son, I used to tutor in children's homes, and I never knew that there were so many children in care. So we decided that when we had our own children, we would open up our home as well and bring them in. Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I just have one son.
One son. And he gets along with the foster kids?
He's had foster kids around with him since he was 1. So
Okay.
he's grown up with them.
So no issues there, right? No issues in terms of being a family unit. And the thing we must also point out is that fostering is a temporary arrangement, yes?
Yes.
Do you often have people who want to adopt the kids permanently? Is that even an option?
Well, that is an option for some of the children, but for most of the children, it tends to be that the return home, to help them return home is the best option for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And they manage to, right?
Yes, that's right. A lot
Okay.
of foster children, a lot of children in care do manage to return home, but it takes time for the natural families to be able to stabilize and sort out the issues and be ready to take the children home safely again.
We'll talk about the profile of these kids in a moment with
Yeah,
Dr.
with
Jasmine Pang. But let's go to our phone lines first.
We've got
Patrick
Pat.
joins us.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for joining us.
Patrick.
Hello.
Yes, hi, Patrick. You're on the air.
Yeah, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, Patrick. Do you mind turning down the volume of your radio set, Patrick, in the background so that you can hear us better? Okay, we'll get to Patrick in just a while. Jasmine, let's go to you first. Tell us more about the profile of these kids.
Most of our children in care are kids who, for various reasons, can't stay with their families. Sometimes it's because parents are unable to care for their kids. For example, they might be incarcerated or they might be very ill. Sometimes we have kids who have been neglected or may have been abandoned. We also sometimes have children who have been ill-treated by their families, and so therefore they need to be in care.
Okay.
Protection.
Now, if a child goes to a foster family, how do you prepare that child? Of course, let's say you've already prepared the family, but how do you prepare that child to move into this family now?
I think we work quite closely with foster services for that, and with child protection as well. We often try and educate the child and get the child aware of what it is. Sometimes we would have a staged introduction to the foster family too. The idea there is that we really want to have the child involved as much as possible to reduce anxiety, because going to a new environment is really scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about preparing the family as well. Lynette, what is the process like for a foster parent? Because clearly it can't just be you wake up one day and there he or she is, a new foster child, right? I'm sure there's a process leading up to it.
Usually, when the foster child comes, the officers will call you and say, we have this child, this age, can you take them in?
Psychologically, how are you prepared for it?
Well, at my home, we always are prepared. We always have an extra bed, and we have clothes ranging from whatever age group, and the good thing is that a lot of my friends know that I foster. So basically, if I get a call from them, I just send out SMS and say, I've got a girl who has clothes, and all the stuff comes pouring in. So Audrie is right. There are lots of warm-hearted Singaporeans out there who are so willing to help. Yeah.
But considering that some of these children probably have gone through psychological trauma, so on and so forth, even physical abuse, what is it like having to also help them cope with that once they start living with you?
Okay,
They might also have behavioral problems, I understand, in some cases. So.
Yeah. The kids do go for to the psychologist for sessions with them. On my part,
Do you go with them as well?
we bring them there, and then they go for the sessions privately.
Oh,
usually.
okay.
Yeah. So on my part, all I want to do actually is to provide a stable, safe environment for them. Gradually, I guess we would have skills to help these children cope, but we do leave it to the professionals, and we just love them, make sure they have warm bed, nice food to eat every day, and I think that helps in its own way.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you have one child of your own.
Yes.
And this is a concern in Singapore, the low fertility rates. You're encouraged to have more than one child, more than 2 children at this time. Instead, you are fostering, which is a very good thing in itself, because there are kids out there who obviously need help too. But have you considered having more kids of your own?
Well, if I could, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, if whatever happens, happens.
Are you trying? I mean, you say if I could, I wouldn't mind.
I'm kind of old.
You don't.
You don't look
You're
it.
bluffing.
You don't look it. But then, I think modern technology these days, with good advice from a doctor, that is possible. But we are digressing a little. Let's go to
Let's get back
Patrick.
to Patrick.
Hopefully Patrick is ready for us now. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Pat.
Hello.
Yes.
I think I don't qualify actually, but I do live in a background like what you all said earlier on, in an institutional home. So I think putting them in a home for too long may also lead to some influences. So I think it's better for them to be fostered out so that they can have the proper care.
Right. What was your experience like? You said that you lived in an institution for some time.
Yeah, because I live in a home where it was purely for juveniles. But I lived there at my own choice.
How long were you there, and from what age to what age?
2 years, about from 15 to 17. So I chose 13 to 17, more than an extension after that.
Why did you choose to live in that environment? What brought you there?
At that time, my mother was quite abusive, so I chose to live there. In fact, I was one of the first residents they wanted to get rid of.
Why?
Because I was the only disabled one there.
What?
And they couldn't care for me.
Forgive me, but what disability do you have, Patrick?
I met you before I was wheelchair bound.
Oh, wheelchair bound. Okay.
Yeah, so they couldn't care for me.
What was life at the home like?
Well, quite tough. You have a regime and all that, so it's more like a juvenile home. So we have a lot of rules, like how inmates are treated. So they kind of found out how to deal with things.
How long ago was this, Patrick, if you don't mind me asking?
In the late 80s.
In the late 80s, okay.
Yeah.
To what extent, Patrick, do you feel that those experiences still affect you currently in your life?
Because now when I see kids from there, I feel that I've gone through that. I don't want other kids to go through that. So.
How do you think more foster parents or more people can be encouraged to come forward to be foster parents so that they can help people?
Maybe we should give them training, because some kids do have special needs. So before we put them to the foster parents, we make sure that they get adequate training to understand the kid.
Right. But you see, the problem is in the first place, there are not enough coming forward to volunteer to be foster parents.
Maybe what we can do is attach them to the foster parents that we have now, so that they themselves can understand how to go about doing it.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. That's a good suggestion, and we'll definitely follow up on that. Dr. Jasmine Pang, I believe you have something to say in response to what Patrick has mentioned.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we look for is willingness. If a parent is willing to bring a child into their family, definitely on our end, even with the kids that might be a little bit more challenging, we do a lot of work with teaching parents how to work with kids, even the ones who have been abused as well. They don't do the intervention itself in terms of addressing the trauma, but every interaction is an intervention. Every opportunity you have talking to the child, building that relationship with the child, is also changing the child's life.
But I want to pick up on something else that Patrick mentioned, which was that his experience in a home was quite negative. They didn't know how to deal with his special needs. Audrie, perhaps you can jump in here. He's talking about what it was like in the 80s for him. I hope things have changed since then, that even the homes that we have today, the institutional homes that we have today, are able to cope with such needs of kids who are obviously at risk and might have other special needs too.
Well, the situation has indeed improved. I think over the decades, many things have been done to improve services to disability. I would say that with all that, family-like environments are really good for children, because as Patrick was saying, in a home it tends to be more institutional, more regimental, and it's not such a natural environment. I think my minister mentioned something like it's artificial, right? Yeah. So you and I live in families. You and I grow up in families. We have our own families. What do families look like? We know what it looks like.
Right.
You come home, you sit down, you feel like watching TV, kick back, you do that, and then you feel like going downstairs to buy your tao hui cui. It's all right. You just go and do it. And then it's perfectly. You can make decisions like that. I want to drink tao hui cui today, and I will do it. But these are things that you may not be able to do in an institutional environment, because the regimen says you can't go out
after a certain time,
and you have to eat what's
But I
available.
think more than that, I think a family brings love as
But
Lynette
see,
mentioned,
in the
right?
meantime, while waiting for more foster parents to come forth, to what extent do you think the environment within the institutions can be improved as well? And perhaps staff can also be better trained to deal with kids with special needs?
Well, actually, we do have training now for residential care staff, the staff in the children's homes. I think we just ran one lately on trauma, so that they are able to understand the needs of all these children and be able to cater to the children a lot better. And I must say that things have improved quite substantially. But nothing will replace family. Like really, I mean, the love and care where families like Lynette's and other foster parents and even other natural families give to their own, that's not going to be replaceable.
Patrick also suggested earlier that we get others to be attached to foster parents, like an attachment program, to encourage more to come forward. We'll follow up on that right after news and sports. Stay with us. What do you think of that suggestion? What other suggestions do you have to help more people come forward as foster parents? We'll also be talking about the criteria that you need to fulfill in order to qualify as one. Thanks for joining us on 938 Live. I'm Bharati Jagdish with Andre Achak. Today talking all about fostering. Would you consider being a foster parent to a child who is in need of care and protection? There is a need for more foster parents. How do you think more can be encouraged to do this? Call us 669-11938. We're joined today by Audrie Siew from the Ministry of Social and Family Development. She is Deputy Director of the Children in Care branch of the Rehabilitation and Protection Group. Jasmine Pang, Dr. Jasmine Pang, is Principal Clinical Psychologist and Assistant Director at the Ministry of Social and Family Development's Rehabilitation and Protection Group as well. And Lynette Chiu, a foster parent, joins us too. You can call in on 669-11938 if you have suggestions. Now, earlier we heard from Patrick, who suggested having an attachment program, a mentoring program of sorts, for new foster parents, new prospective foster parents, to be attached, of course, to the ones who've been doing it for years, like Jasmine, or rather like Lynette. What do you think of that suggestion? Is that feasible, Audrie?
I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you very much, Patrick, for bringing it up. We do have some support groups now that where foster parents can sit together and share their stories and support each other. And we have found that to be very useful. So I think Patrick's suggestion is actually a good one to maybe expand it and to allow for more of this to happen, because I do know that for new foster parents, very often there's a bit of anxiety. They have their first child, and so having a more experienced foster parent walk beside them and journey with them would be a very, very good help, I think.
Let's hear from Tennant now, who's called us on 669-11938. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, hello, good morning.
What do you think?
Actually, I have a question anyway.
Sure.
I know there are many families who are stable and also exploring, but one of the questions that my wife and I had will be, what about the emotional attachment to the child? You take care of the child for weeks or even for years, and when they are ready to go back to the home, then how do we prepare ourselves for that?
Very good question,
great
sir.
question.
Let's put this to Lynette. Lynette, you've said that you have had 5 foster kids in your home over the years. What was it like when you had to let them go, when they were finally ready perhaps to go back to their own families?
Yeah, when they first come to you, it's always at the back of your mind that it's in the best interest of the child to be reintegrated with the family. So with that in mind, what I usually do is I usually take lots of photographs for the children, like important milestones in their lives, and I will compile it and I will give it to them when they go.
Right.
So they have a copy and I have a copy. Of course, you are very, very sad when they go.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but
do they visit you after they've left?
Usually we don't. Yeah, usually we ties are cut.
Why is that exactly? Why is that better for the child?
I think it's better for the child to get on with life with their natural family, and also it's better for the natural families, I think, to so this is just one stage, and now they are ready to progress and move forward together as a family.
So you should see it as a good thing has happened for this kid, and you should let that happen. Yes. What about your son? How old is he?
He's 11.
11. How does he adjust to having to see some of his friends leave, because I'm sure they make friends and all that, right?
I think he's resilient, so he's okay as well. So he also knows that eventually they will go. Yeah, and
children tend to be more resilient
Yes,
than adults in
yes.
some cases.
How does he help in integrating the child into your family?
oh, it's great when the children come. The first person they attach to is very often him. So it's everything is about him because he's like the big brother.
Right.
Yeah, and I think a lot of foster parents are afraid that their own children will lose out when they take in other kids. But I found that not to be the case.
Yeah.
Because I think my son has learned a lot of empathy.
Yes.
He's realized that not everyone's life is a bed of roses, and I think that helps him a lot. Yeah.
By the way, Tenant, if you are still interested in being a foster parent, here's the number you can call: 6354-8799. That's 6354-8799. I think you just have to have the courage to try it. Yes, there are a list of criteria for foster parents. Audrey, can you shed light on that?
Well, perhaps one of the easiest way to talk about the criteria is the spirit of it. We have children who are vulnerable, who come from very difficult situations already. So what's really needed for these kids are warm, nurturing, conducive environments for them to feel safe and to be healed and to be put on the road for recovery. So we look for families which are at least 25 years and above. The applicant should be 25 years old and above. Be financially stable. Because if there's financial stress within the family, then it's difficult to cope with another foster child.
Right.
Although allowances
However, I understand that they are given allowances to support the foster child.
Correct.
Right?
They're given allowance for the expenses of the foster child.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, medically fit. And able in terms of the characteristics of their family and personalities and all that to give that warm kind of environment to the child.
More stable for sure, more structured living as well.
Correct.
What about if a single person who lives with their extended family is also interested in being a foster parent? Would you consider some of these other types of people in society?
Well, we're definitely open to any family environment that's able to give them a good positive role model of how a family works, because very often the children come in without having a good role model or what a functional family may be. So I think one of the
you don't have to be married for that, right? I mean, you would consider single people who perhaps have other people who can support them to look after a foster child?
Yeah, we can consider them. We do assess these situations case by case. Yeah, because ultimately what we're looking for is that positive role model and positive family environment for the children.
Right. Let's see what Mike has to say about this. Mike joins us now on 669-11938. Hi, Mike. Good morning. Apparently we've lost Mike, or we might be able to get him back in a few minutes, hopefully. 669-11938 is our number. Let's talk about what happens when things go wrong or not quite as planned. And how many cases perhaps have you seen a mismatch between the family and the child? Jasmine, perhaps you could shed some light on those challenges.
Well, as much as possible, we try not to set people up for failure. Many of these children have been through enough changes in their life. So we do match families to children very carefully. Most of these kids have had very thorough assessments done prior to placement. As a psychologist too, many of us do assessments in terms of not just the social history, but also in terms of the psychological needs of the child. We often do try and let the foster family know that these are the needs of the child, whether it be psychological or medical as well. And the foster family, they can make a decision about whether the family is able to take this child in the first place.
Right.
We often do work very, very closely with the foster care officers and the family as well to try and find the best ways to be able to meet the needs of the child and support the families too. So in terms of a mismatch, we avoid that by starting out right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's assuring.
Lynette, what were some of the challenges that you have faced with the various children that you've had in your care over the years?
The challenges occur usually when they first step into your home, because these kids have been taken away from their parents, and they're very, very often confused about why they have to be separated.
They're very fragile, right, at that point?
Some of them are very fragile. Some of them put on this really false bravado
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
For the younger ones, maybe you can spend a couple of nights just holding them because they are crying and crying and crying until they settle down. Yeah, sorry, I just want to respond to what Patrick was saying.
Sure.
How do you let it go? I think you need to think of it that you had the opportunity to love this child. And just let it go.
Tennant mentioned
Tennant,
that.
Yeah, rather than be so afraid of being hurt that you're not open up to it.
Right. Certainly, very good tips there.
Yeah. Audrie,
go ahead.
this is the first time that MSF is inviting VWOs to be part of this fostering program. Now, will the ministry draw up uniform standards for these VWOs?
Yes, definitely. I think even if VWs are actually working with this, it's still we do want to ensure that foster care is safe and is well done and properly done. And because this is the first time we're actually opening up to VWs, MSF, we will also be very much in the picture to train, to coach, to help the VWs to build up capability. I think the heart is not so much like, the work is out there. It's more like it's a partnership. Right. So we want to be there to build capability with our partners so that this can be expanded to this fostering service can be actually be expanded to reach out to more children. And VWs have a very special asset. They've got great relationships with the community and they've got very good networks. So using those networks is actually good for good for them to be able to tap on new pools of foster parents and be able to inspire more to join the service. So that's why I think that working with VWs will be a great opportunity.
All right, and the number, if you're interested in being a foster parent, the number to call is 63548799. Many thanks to our guest this morning, Audrie Siew, Deputy Director from the Children in Care Branch Rehab Protection Group, MSF, Dr. Jasmine Pang, Principal Clinical Psychologist and Assistant Director, Clinical and Forensic Psychology Branch at MSF, and Lynette Chiu, a foster parent herself. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us this morning.